So you're seeing this, and you talked about it as an assault on traditional values.
That is exactly right. Traditional values is what I believe. My parents are in their late 70s, early 80s, and I was brought up that I was smacked if I was naughty, and that taught me right from wrong. I'm not saying under child abuse. Please don't get me wrong on that. Just we were taught right from wrong. I grew up in a village where nobody locked the door. My parents are still a nightmare. I can go around there at 10 o'clock at night and just walk straight in the house, and I say to them, you need to lock up these days, and they're like, we don't want to live in a place like that. And I think that's part of this. We have to be what we want to be, and we have to get people to join us on that journey. And this is a journey of, I believe, faith, spirituality. Is all in there, and it's all under attack. And I think we as a collection need to get together and stand up against this.
And are you finding from the responses on your YouTube and just in your daily interactions, what are people saying to you?
What I will say, and this, Colin, intrigues me because I'm a statistics person. So, on YouTube, we've downloaded an app where you can look at the facts and figures of who's the demographics of your audience. Most of the audience are 56 and above, so they're my age and above. And I think they're the people what still have true, honest, hard-working values installed in them. So it seems to be as you come down the age groups, and I see this in a lot of the youngsters where I was brought up where mum was always at home. She saw us off to school. If mum went off to work, if one of us was taken ill, nan would be there to pick us up. Someone was always at home. There was always a point of stability. And these days, you don't see that a lot. Kids have key to let themselves in, out in the morning, back in at night, and mum's at work because they've got to pay the bills. And I think we've become very different in the last 50 years. And sadly, I have to say, I don't think it's for the better.
Indeed, and I mean, what I've been experiencing, and others have been experiencing it as well. I mean, even people who may not think too much about God or spirituality, they're saying, well, we now recognize evil.
Absolutely. I think I would say on that when I first started looking into the 2030 agenda, I genuinely didn't believe, and if I talk here from the farming point alone, I didn't think they would ever be able to get farmers to stop farming. And I thought, well, that's just ridiculous because farmers will want to produce food. But then you see the pure evil in the background that's gone on, and the mind games and the manipulation and how devious they've been to actually get farmers to stop producing food. And it normally comes down to money, I have to say. Whether that farmer's been given planning permission to put houses on, or solar parks, or, anything and everything, pretty flower fields so they don't have to produce food. And people live in the misconception that, well, we're just going to import it, it's okay. But I think to anyone that's dug into the 2030 agenda a little bit will soon realise that it clearly states that we won't have any transport in or out of the country, as in planes, boats, aeroplanes. So where's the food going to come from? If you take just 4 years ago, we were then producing nearly 70% of our food. By the end of 2025, we'll be down to 22% of our food actually being produced in the UK. That to me is very concerning and very scary. Now, as much as preppers like myself have gone, okay, well, I'll load the pantry up and, keep some spare tins and everything else, that doesn't last forever. And, when you've got a family that aren't awake and aren't prepared to make those decisions to make sure they've got plenty of food put aside, and you look at it from a parental point of view or a good citizen point of view, if it's the neighbour comes round and needs food, for instance, I think that a lot of people are going to be very hungry if we don't act quite quickly to resolve this. And the way I see that we need to do this is that we need to get the farmers almost into a state of protection, because what we're seeing is obviously this this just barrage of abuse aimed at farmers to get them to give up farming is just relentless. Whether that's all of these things are just distractions. This new one for inheritance tax, which has got a lot of farmers riled, it is just part of a very, very big agenda, and a very, very big land grab.
And your fellow farmers, your peers. I mean, what are they saying? Are they seeing anything behind this?
I've got to be honest, Colin, very rarely. And that saddens me, I've got to be honest, because if someone looks down the rabbit hole, as I'm sure a lot of your viewers will understand this from what I'm talking about, if you look down the rabbit hole just a little bit, you can't help but fall all the way down. So you haven't got to look very deep to uncover this stuff. And at this point, it seems to be that whether farmers are too busy, I speak from, I'm fortunate, the farm I'm on, Ray, who owns the farm here, he's very awake. He's a distant relative, and he is very awake and understands completely what's going on. Where a lot of farmers which we talk to between us just have no idea. They just think, oh, it's just another thing we've got to deal with. Where actually it's part of a very big, very deep, very dark agenda.
So what about, I mean, the farmers that have taken their tractors, whether in the Netherlands or in Whitehall, elsewhere in France, how do they see it?
I guess what I'd say on that is, do I personally think it did any good? No, I don't, I have to say. I don't know that protesting really what that does. I was at the first march in London. There was best part of 60,000 of us there. And it was completely organised by the No Flipping Use National Farmers Union, It was completely curtailed into one tiny little area on the Mall. We were not allowed to go on a march because they said it was too dangerous because there was too many of us. The speakers were more politicians spoke than what farmers spoke. And it made a complete mockery, and I came away from there. And to be honest, Colin, I was 48 hours before I did a video about it because I was that angry when I came home, and I thought, surely I can't be the only person who feels like this. And I put a video together saying about my distrust in the day and what I saw. And to my shock and horror, I had literally thousands of people contact me saying exactly the same thing. People who were there on the day coming back and saying, well, no, that was just a waste of time. So when they did the last rally and they went down, took the tractors down, I stayed away. I've got to be honest, I'd got other engagements that day, stayed away. And I know there is a lot more planned via the tractors to go out and protest. Unfortunately, I think they've either got to be prepared, and I hate to say this, but they've either got to be prepared to take their pitchforks as well, or just stay at home. There is no in between. The argument what's got to come over this good versus evil has got to come. One side's got to win in this, and if we don't come out of the right side of this, there's going to be an awfully large amount of people, I fear, that actually won't make it through.